Hi, this is Jeanne Mayell, Intuitive. I've posted my first YouTube last week, 2019 predictions, and I got a pretty big response and a lot of subscribers. So I've decided to keep going and talk to you some more. I want to tell you about the first very powerful prediction I got that covers this time period and beyond that I got 30 years ago. So in 1985, when I first started giving readings, I got a message. What I was told was that by spirit was that everyone who was coming to see me for a reading, and also I would include nowadays the people that not only come for readings, but people who come on my website and are really resonating with the message that they are reading there, that these people, that they're really like from a tribe, and it's a tribe from another dimension, and it could be from a past life, it could be from just another sphere in the universe, it could be from another planet. I don't know. I only know that we are connected and that we come from this dimension and that we are here now on this planet at this time because we're here to help. Now, we're not sages, we're not gurus, we're not prophets. We are mostly, though, empaths, and we find that we're empathic. And many of you out there might not realize you're part of this tribe, but you may be drawn to the website, you may be drawn to other websites that have a similar vibration or message. I was told that my job as an intuitive was to help those people who came to me to remember who they really are. I'm not going to tell you that you are something that you're not. I am telling you to think about the kind of person you are and to understand that you might actually be here at this time to lend help, to help others, to help guide others. And so getting back to my prediction that came to me, I was told that in the future, in the distant future, this was 1985, and I didn't know when it was going to start, but I figured it was at least into the new millennium, that there would be changes in the earth mostly. And the kinds of changes that I was being told were going to happen, we called them earth changes. The changes that were coming would have to do with seas rising up and other kinds of environmental changes. And I didn't know exactly what they would be, but I knew they would be profound. And I knew that it would cause a shift it would necessitate a shift in consciousness on the part of the human race in order to deal with these changes and in order to find a life from the changes and perhaps even to avert some of them. And that is really what is the climate change movement, environmental movement today. But it goes beyond that, because what I was seeing in my vision was that sometime in the future, and I remember this is 1985 when I saw this, the first thing I saw was young urban professionals streaming out of New York City like refugees. And they were carrying briefcases or various paraphernalia and walking upstate is what I saw. And some people have said to me since 9/11 that they think I was seeing 9/11. It certainly does resemble a lot of the 9/11 visions. And frankly, I think probably I don't think there will be another scenario out in New York like that one. I'm not thinking there will be. What the whole vision to me symbolized was a lot more than that. What I saw was that there were people who would be helping these people, and these were the people coming to me for readings and coming on my website, that these are the people who would be, in a sense, guiding people who would have to deal with a new paradigm, really, a new way of living. Another part of the vision was that I saw this cliff that was it looked like it was like 1,000 feet high, and it was further inland, further upstate. So it was kind of a metaphor for a place and a state of mind that we would all have to get to in order to live in the future world. there's no question now that with climate change, we are going to have to deal with tremendous change over the next century. And it's not anymore such a strange prophecy that I had. It's now beginning to fall into place and make sense. But what is still really interesting is that I still see people coming to me, and now I feel like the times that I was seeing are actually starting to unfold. Now we're seeing a lot of chaos on this planet. We're seeing a lot of confusion. Certainly the political issues that are in the US today are, compared to what we were dealing with in 1985, it really feels like we're getting very shaken up and that we're close to some kind of major change. And so the prediction put in perspective is that we're entering now a kind of center of a spiral. So now I'm going to move this into some other predictions and visions that I've gotten and how they all fit together. So if we fast forward to 2013, 2014, I go on retreats periodically, and in which for about a week I sit on a meditation pillow about 9 hours a day for about 7 days and sit with other people. And I get a chance to really kind of clear my head. And sometimes I get some of these very powerful visions at this time. So around 2013, I got a very powerful vision. I went into my room and sat on the floor, and I started getting the vision of, it looked like I was seeing the stock market, but looking back on it, I think I was seeing the collective conscience of our culture, that I was seeing, you might call it the nervous system of our culture. And the stock market sometimes does reflect the nervous system of the culture. So at times I think what I was getting was the same as the market, and other times I think it was just this sense of collective jitters or nervousness. And here's what I saw. So it's around 2013, and I'm seeing this vision. Things are just kind of moving along. It's like a line, like a graph, and it's kind of moving along, moving along. And then around 2017, it starts to get bumpy, like jittery, like volatile. So at the time I thought, whoa, I think maybe the markets are going to get volatile, but I don't think they did actually. But what did happen in 2017 is Donald Trump became our president and immediately plunged us as a country into very, very chaotic times, really upsetting and chaotic times. So the volatility in the collective was there in 2017. So now getting back to my vision, in 2018, it looked like it got more volatile. And then in 2019, it got even more, it felt like it was really volatile. And sometime around the end of 2019, beginning of 2020, around that time, the line that I was seeing went down, and it went down, 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 down. Clearly, there was a period of things hitting the fan, so to speak. And then around 2025 to 2028, specifically, it was right around 2028 that I felt that the line came back up. And and it was like a mountain again. It came right back up to where it was. And at the very top of the mountain were two little figures, and they were women. And they were kind of like shining like a victory sign, and they looked happy. And the thought that came to me when I saw that is that during the down period, the markets would be down, and that there would be a lot of economic disruption in this country, and emotional disruption, and that people would turn away from the central government, the federal government, because it had just gotten too much like a big swamp, and people lost faith in it. And of course, today, as I'm recording this YouTube, we have a federal shutdown, and we have a president who's now saying that this could go on for years. Well, I don't think it'll go on for years. What he's doing is shaking up the people's view of the federal government on all levels. So it isn't just that we're having a federal shutdown. We're starting to wonder, will we even have a federal government? Now, I'm not saying we won't have a federal government, but it fits the prediction that people would become completely turned off eventually to the central government. And of course, I don't want to see this. I'm sure Putin is laughing his head off, because this is exactly the kind of thing you'd want to see, but it weakens our country. But nevertheless, this is what I feel, that the faith in the federal system, the central government that makes our country so strong, is being shaken and will continue to be shaken. And back in 2013, I saw this kind of downward motion. However, as I've mentioned in the previous YouTube, it comes back. It is restored. And it's restored, however, as a result of a real shift in consciousness in this country. And that fits with the original prediction of that cliff and people needing to elevate their consciousness up much, much higher, and that there would be light workers, people like me and probably you, if you're resonating with this, and many of the people who come into the community on my website, jeannemayell.com, are clearly empaths and light workers, people who care about animals and about the environment and about each other and about humane programs and about the immigrants. And you just can't even believe the quality of the kindness and the kindness of the people I have met as a result of starting this website. They are the light workers, and I suspect that some of you are too. So what I saw in this prediction was that around 2028 or so, and it starts much earlier, it's already starting actually, this rising up of women and rising up of light workers and rising up of men with care. So the rise of women isn't just about women only rising and women being on top. It's about all people with a strong, caring, maternal, deep feminine, as the Jungians would say, in their psyche. And that started already. And if you go on my website and look at positive predictions, which we've been doing for a few years, you'll see the light is rising. It's just that it's not on top yet. It's, if you yourself join a movement of light workers, then you will feel good. You'll feel like you can see it rising. However, if you read the newspapers, you still see government shutdown, you see a defiant president, you see people very frustrated, and there's a lot of suffering as a result of this dark money and dark situation. But the point is that it's rising. And what I saw in my prediction was that around 2028, it's back. We're back. We're back. Now, we're not back to what we were. It looks like the markets might be back to what they were, but we're not back to what we were. We're better. We're much better than what we were before we went down. And it's kind of like anything, you know, like you get sick with a cold, and in the weeks prior to getting sick, you know, your health is really not that great. And then you catch something and you get really sick. But when you recover from the cold, I don't know if you've noticed this, but it is true that it cleanses out a lot of the toxicity in your system, and you feel better than you felt even before you had it. And although this is a heck of a lot more intense and magnified than a simple cold, if you think of it as our whole collective, our civilization, the US collective, and many of the countries that are affected by us, if you think of us as having gotten very toxic, very prone towards greed and profiteering and leaving out the humane factor, and you see that as something that's reaching a peak now, that kind of negativity reaching a peak, then imagine that it all crashes down, because it's not sustainable to live like that and to rule like that. And then meanwhile, people change, people shift, people say, you know what, I don't need this. I don't want to live like this. It isn't worth it for me to live like this kind of stress. And people begin building more groundedness, more grounded lives. And then up we come, up we come, up we come. And so that was the second prophecy I had, okay? And then I want to tell you a little bit about how these two big prophecies, which really span many decades, how they fit with other prophecies that people have told me about since I had them. In 2015, I read a book by a wonderful man named Charles Eisenstein called The More Beautiful World Our Hearts Know Is Possible. Now, Eisenstein is not a psychic. Eisenstein is a I'd say he's sort of a philosopher. In the last two paragraphs of the book, he goes into a kind of reverie or fantasy. And I'm sitting there reading this, and I felt like he was saying exactly the prophecy that I had been given back in 1985, except slightly different words. And what he says is, and you can go look it up on his website, charleseisenstein.net. He's a light worker without question. And he's such a giving person that he sells his books to make a living, but he actually makes them available online. So you can click on the book and actually read that last paragraph, or you can buy it, whichever works for you. I recommend the whole book. But in the last two paragraphs, he says, imagine this. We're in another planet, and it's a civilization that is like 1 million years more advanced than the one that is on Earth. And the people are gathering, the leaders are gathering together their followers and all the people there, and they're saying, people, gather around. There's a planet named Earth with a civilization of humans that are just like us, only they're much younger. And it's interesting because the human species is about 200,000 years old. And that's actually young by species standards. So we're kind of young. And this civilization that he's describing is at least 1 million years older. The idea is that they're caring and empathic. That's my vision anyway of what he's talking about, that they understand that we are all one, and they have a very evolved way of helping each other and of living together collectively. And so the elders say to the people, we can make arrange for you to go to the planet Earth and be there to help with this human race, which is in trouble. People volunteer, and some of them say, but what if we get left there? What if we're stuck there? I mean, are you going to abandon us? And the elders say, no, we will be there in spirit. We will be there for you. And what's interesting is that I feel, as do some of my colleagues, that right now spirit is rising on this planet. That if me and others and you and light workers, if we really are from another dimension, I mean, our soul is from another dimension. Clearly we're humans, we got born here, but if our soul is from another dimension and we came here to help, which is the vision that I had, then also along with that is that around the time in which things will get really rough, which is happening now, we will feel spiritual guidance. We will hear them talking. And that is what's happened to me too. I mean, I feel like I've been hearing spirit speaking to me for 3 decades, but really a lot in the last few years. And I notice clients coming to me who feel that too. So maybe you also have noticed it. And if you haven't, you might want to consider coming to one of my classes and getting some help, or someone's classes, if not mine, and getting some help in being able to open your spiritual eyes and ears and feel the guidance that's coming, because it is here and it's positive and it's good. So in his vision, the people gathered round and they were told, well, you're going to forget where you came from, and they were whisked away and they came to the planet Earth. And in my vision, which I got in 85, I saw the souls of the people who were coming here and who were coming to me for readings to figure out what the heck was going on with their lives and who they were. The souls would stream in like lights. Does anybody remember E.T. when in the very beginning, it showed this sort of streaming light coming in? There's another movie of the same era called Starman, which I loved, if you saw that, with Jeff Bridges. And it was the same idea, that these beings come from another place and they're very evolved and beautiful, and they come streaming in light. And that was the vision I had, that light was streaming into this planet, and it was you all and light workers as souls streaming into the planet and landing inside their mother's wombs. So there's a lot to think about if you are one of these light workers. There's a lot to think about, like, are you an empath? Are you someone who feels at times like you're kind of isolated, like you feel like different. You may have a family who loves you, but maybe you wonder, like, how did I end up in this family, that I grew up in this community? I feel a little weird. I feel a little different. I want to give. I cry easily for animals who are hurt, or if I see things of suffering of people. And on top of that, I have trouble with boundaries. I'm going to do another YouTube on codependency and boundaries for empaths, so stay tuned for that. That was the first time that I heard somebody else give this prophecy in a way. I mean, he didn't call it a prophecy, but it was so similar to what I'd seen. And then I was a student of Jeanne Mayell, who is another wonderful, wonderful teacher and an eco-philosopher. And Jeanne Mayell also has a website, jeannemayell.org, and she tells a prophecy too. So when she was in the Peace Corps, she went to northern India, which is where the Dalai Lama is. And she met a holy man there called a Rinpoche. It was a young man, and he told her of a 12th century Tibetan prophecy. And again, I was like, I heard it and I got shivers all through me because it felt so similar to the one that I've been given. And in that story, the Rinpoche told him that a time was coming. It was an ancient prophecy, and a time was coming in which the world would be held in balance, that we would not know whether we would survive. Climate change is certainly an issue where we are at this point. And so in that prophecy, which is also known as the Shambhala prophecy, there was a warrior called a Shambhala warrior or a heart warrior. And I would say this is the light workers. And the heart warrior would rise up and basically save the world. But he or she would not do it with battles, like with weapons, but would do it with love and do it from being evolved, highly evolved. The other thing that Joanna told us that he told her was that the heart warrior wasn't one person. It's not going to be a messiah, like one person comes and saves us. It's going to be thousands and thousands of people, maybe millions. And maybe you are one of them. If you're resonating with what I say, you are very likely one of them. So I'm going to be teaching a course in heart warriorship. I think we all need to learn how to get through these times and get through them with strength. And women especially who have got this empathic hearts, these mothers who you know who you are, and men who have this empathic heart, also need strength to get through this, strength to actually end up at the top of that mountain that I saw in the latter part of 2020, the strength to be a leader and to heal and to bring us all to this new level. So the heart warriors are the ones who are going to help. Remember the plateau I saw that's 1,000 feet up and the cliff? We've got to get ourselves up there. We have to evolve. And then we have to help other people get up there. So that's it for now. There is another prophecy that an Indian gentleman sent me called the Kali Yuga prophecy. It's kind of a astrological configuration in the Hindu religion that talks about cycles that go for 3,000 years. And one of these, this one man who is in India, who was reading my website a couple of years ago, told me that my prediction of 2025 to 2028 is being a big shift time. He said that coincides with the Kali Yuga prophecy, which is that around that time, 2025, 2028, that we would change over from a much darker world, a dark money world, of a world of punishment and segregation and discrimination, into a world that's more matriarchal and more light-filled. And I know, I did a little research on Kali Yuga and when he sent that to me, and it is very complex. And so if you're a Kali Yuga expert out there, maybe you could write to me on my website and tell me what you think about it, or leave a comment on this YouTube. But what I am trying to point out to you is a bigger picture. I've gotten visions and predictions, and then they coincide with some of these very beautiful prophecies that are coming to life. So that's it for today. Thanks for listening. I will have another one for you next week. And onward and upward, go to jeannemayell.com, because I have a forum there and there are beautiful people who are posting. You can ask questions. You can get some help if you're struggling with the difficulties of these times. You can also read really hundreds of predictions and visions. Okay, take care. Thank you.